I'm co-host James Ash.
And I'm co-host Phil Scaife.
Welcome to the Business Lockdown. Welcome to today's episode. We have Mirjam, Schieveld, and Ian Kenny. These guys are based in one of my favourite cities in the world, in Amsterdam, working with the University of Amsterdam. Mirjam is a director of summer schools programmes, and Ian is the programme coordinator. We met in Morocco over the winter at a Sundesk co-working, co-living space, and it's a pleasure to see you guys again. Welcome on today's show.
Thank you for having us, James.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So there's lots we can cover today. I think I'm really curious, first of all, in what does Amsterdam, the city of tourists, look like with zero tourists right now? I mean, it must feel very, very different.
It's wonderful.
I thought you might say that.
Yeah. No, well, actually, it's especially the silence. It's really quiet. Normally, you have so many noises and such crowded streets. Last week, we made a little video of the red light district where you normally can't film. And we give a little tour. One of our academic directors gives a little tour of the red light district. So there you can see the totally empty streets of the red light district, which is unusual. In the neighborhood where I live, it's the planes mainly that aren't flying, so it's silent. Also the trams go less, so it's especially the noise level is way down, and you can walk without bumping too much into people. Though the streets are very narrow, so what it will mean for the 1.5 meter society, that's technically impossible in Amsterdam. So yeah, and then of course, once people can go out, they all go to the Vondel Park, for example, and that's down the street of my house. It's like my backyard where I normally would walk or bike through, but it's so busy. They close all the entrances, so I haven't been there in a long time. Yesterday I walked through it because it was raining, so I could go in and don't fall over all the people. But yeah, so it's different. It's quiet.
Has lockdown started easing now in Amsterdam?
It already started. It did, Ian, right?
Yeah. So
or is it from tomorrow or next week?
About 2 weeks ago, we had some small changes, some things that were initially not allowed to happen, like hair salons, things like that were allowed to reopen. We never really had restaurants closed down, of course, but they were all welcome to do takeaway from right away. So we haven't really had the big closure of everything that a lot of other places have had. And then from the 1st of June, so next Monday, well, that's a holiday for us. So really technically from the 2nd, we do start to see some more restrictions relaxed, and
restaurants can open.
Restaurants can open. So we'll be trying to dine together in no more than groups of 2 with 1.5 meters between us. It'll be largely impossible, as Mirjam said.
Terraces can open.
Yeah,
that will be nice. But I expect it to be crazy.
Yeah, I think maybe the idea is nicer than it will actually be in person.
Yeah.
Reality.
I saw a picture of, I don't know if it was just a staged social media post, but it was a restaurant in Amsterdam, and they'd made little...
With the glass.
That's Mediamatic.
Right.
We work with them.
Yeah.
It's not too far from the university. It's next to Central Station. And it's actually more an art collective, right, Ian?
It's very interesting. They do a lot of different things there. They're kind of like a laboratory for the city. So they do various sorts of everything from like cooking workshops to smellscapes of the city. And their home is right there in this beautiful tiny little warehouse next to the Central Station on the water. And they are about to start their restaurant back up with those little individual greenhouses that have all been colored differently.
Because they have one big greenhouse there, right? So
they do, yeah.
It's normally, we have a drawing actually in our office made by one of the students of the Mediamatic space.
Yeah.
And so that's a greenhouse, and now you have these tiny little greenhouses.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
so it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's not a gimmick; it's real.
Yeah.
You'll have to send us some photographs, drop some photographs or some videos on the group when you guys go and visit, and let us know that experience, because it's content that we've seen and we've put out into our audience across socials, and it's certainly given people some ideas or some hope about going out and eating sooner with ideas like that in place. So, but Ian, your Dutch accent, that's more Canadian, if I'm right.
Yeah, more Canadian, correct. Yeah, like lots of people in the Netherlands, it's an extremely international and multicultural place here. So I moved to the Netherlands 4.5 years ago now to start my master's degree at the University of Amsterdam. And at the time, I didn't have any intention of staying after my degree, but then, one thing led to another, and I fell in love. I started doing well in school, and then I met Mirjam, and yeah, I haven't looked back since. So I've been working at the summer programs office since before I graduated, and we celebrated my graduation party together in Morocco of 2017, which was a really special day. And yeah, so I do speak Dutch. I'm more or less fluent, but you don't hear a Dutch accent in English, of course, and you definitely hear my Canadian accent when I speak Dutch.
I mean, well, where Phil and I are from, it's so accessible because we have the ferry port in East Yorkshire in our city,
right?
And so when it's out of season, it's I think it's about £38 per person to go for 2 nights on the ferry and a day trip to Rotterdam or Amsterdam.
Perfect.
So it's like, why wouldn't you? Or it's a 45-minute flight from our nearest airport. So it's just like, I first visited when I was 18, and I remember I made a promise to myself because I just thought it was that amazing, and the Dutch people are so amazing as well. And I remember just thinking, I'm gonna promise myself to visit every year, and I've missed 1 year by 1 month, and I think I'm on my 46th time I've been now. So my 46 visits I've been to. So when I say it's one of my favourite cities in the world, it really is. It's certainly my most visited.
I hope you
I'm
back soon.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed, eh? Yes. I mean, yes. We'll certainly keep in contact. I think there's a business meeting, isn't there, Phil, that we need to be.
There is, yeah. We're just planning that, weren't we? Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. We'll certainly to
emails.
Yes. Well, so what does life look like with the University of Amsterdam under normal circumstances? So pre-COVID-19.
Well, I'm doing this for 25 years now, almost. I think I started in 1997. So this will be my first summer without students. Normally, around this time, we would be panicking and working our things off and preparing for hundreds of students to come in and prepare housing and excursions and everything. But in March, we canceled everything. So it's like, yeah, as if somebody cut off one of my arms. We mourned a little, and but we thought, okay, what can we do? So we started this online page, Summer School Online. Ian can tell you more about it. And after a while, we also decided, to not, like some universities do, try to put our courses online, because what's special about our programs is that they take place in Amsterdam, and we use the city as our laboratory, like what you call Mediamatic. That's one of our excursions for one of the programs, and we really travel through the city, and everything's connected. It's very interactive. So we use the city as our laboratory. We have a lot of urban study programs, but also sexuality programs, addiction. So all these topics, that are interwoven with the city. So we use the city, we move through the city, and all these things aren't possible now. And you can't reproduce them online. So, and we don't think we should even try that. So we made a click in our heads and we developed short modules of 2 weeks that people can combine and still have some of our main topics in there. So one is on urban studies, one's on sexuality, culture and society, mindfulness, our mindfulness program, of course, and Boris program.
Yeah, navigating troubling times. So like looking at the present through some different lenses and looking at longer term narratives that are at play, not just around COVID-19, but things that the recent crisis has made apparent in the way we live. And I think at the University of Amsterdam in general, I mean, for us, it's been particularly shocking because, you know, everything that we do is in the summer and we work for the whole year to welcome 600 students every summer. It's, for me, also the most exciting time of the year. I love when the students are there, having everyone from all over the world. I think last year we had 70 different nationalities represented. So it's quite,
wow.
It's an enormous event.
Yeah.
The education's great, the atmosphere is excellent, and normally the weather cooperates. So it definitely is a special time for us. But of course, everyone at the university in general, also in regular education, you know, courses have gone online. A lot of international students have made the decision to go back home, but they're still attending courses through Zoom. Lecturers have been extremely resourceful. The professors are doing a great job. And actually, in general, the University of Amsterdam, everyone's really pulled together to kind of band around each other and make sure that we can continue offering the different education programs that we do, at least the regular ones, and the ones that can't go forward. I mean, people like us, we're trying to be as innovative as possible.
And help out other parts of our departments.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It is.
So you have 600 students visit Amsterdam. I would imagine a fair percentage of those are first-time visitors. Would I be correct? Yeah. And you facilitate. So you get to step back and watch these first experiences of one of what I consider to be the best cities in the world. That must be quite something. Especially after all the hard work that that goes into planning and during the year, and then it all comes to fruition, and you will see the students in front of you enjoying their time. How long do the students stay in Amsterdam? Is it for a full summer?
We have mainly programs that last 3 weeks, because we think, you know, if you really want to get to know the city a little and deep dive into a topic, you need at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, first week is to get to, you know, sometimes it's for people the first time they study abroad, you know, and they travel on their own, and they travel from far away, you know. So it's not only the excitement of being in Amsterdam, but it's often for students also the first time that they have this responsibility. So that's why we really try to provide a lot of service and really attend to the students. So we organize everything, not only the whole application process and the content of the academic content, of course, with the academic faculty, but also the housing, and they get a card for public transport and a museum card, and we really, you know, welcome them and have a community sense. So they often fall in love with Amsterdam. There's always a percentage of students that say, I don't want to go back, I want to stay. And some of them stay, like Ian and others. I forgot what you were asking.
you were just about to say that we can stay at yours when we do our business trip in the coming couple of months. That was right, Ian, wasn't it? Yeah?
That's what I meant about I'm expecting emails. So
to be fair, Mirjam, you'll probably hear a knock on the door before I'll be there quicker than an email takes a second through. But I mean, as a wonderful city, I mean, how easy is it to maintain students' attention? I mean, such a beautiful city, but it could be such a distraction as well, right?
I'll talk one more time, Ian, and then I'll give the floor to you. Because that was always my worry. And people think, like, oh, they're going to party, and, you know. but to my amazement, you know, from early on, they're really serious students.
Yeah.
And of course it's not that we accept everybody. I have to say that we're selective.
Mm-hmm.
So that might help, you know, so that we filter out the party goers. Yeah, I don't know, maybe we do, but yeah, there are always some, of course, that are in
Naturally.
class with a hangover or not completely there. But it's rare, actually. You know, most of them are really serious. And of course, we give them time, you know, in the weekend, they can, you know, they're free, they're on their own. You know, we sometimes try to develop a kind of social program, but of course the city is, you know, one big party. You know, they hardly need any social programming because they find their way themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's rigorous academic programs. We really focus on content, prepare really well. So I think we also attract a certain type of students.
Yeah, I would agree with Mirjam on that. I think over the 25 years that Mirjam's been doing it, the reputation has started to speak for itself. And we do things differently from other universities. Summer school for us isn't just to be offered so that you can catch up or get ahead, though of course students do that, but we try to offer programs that you really wouldn't find in regular education. So even if the general topic like urban studies is something you could get at your university, we try and offer a course like planning the cycling city, for instance, that takes a very Amsterdam-based approach on things. What we find actually is that the students kind of get so wrapped up in their program.
Yeah.
We keep them small intentionally, so maximum 30 participants. And I must say, one of my favorite moments and least favorite moments of the summer is when is the final session before the students leave. So we have these kind of farewell sessions, and we give out certificates, but we actually ask the students to give them to each other. So they present their fellow students with their certificates and say something nice about them. I've seen a lot of people cry at these events. I've seen really, I believe, lifelong friendships made in our classrooms. And yeah, people do get distracted sometimes by the city, but I think that's what we try actually to promote. That you should also be here to go and experience what it's like to live here. And I mean, Amsterdam it's absolutely bursting at the seams with things to do for everyone, you know, from museums to sex work, kind of, we have it all. So
yeah, and it's also, you know, that when you come here as a tourist, you tend to stay more in the inner city.
Yeah.
And we take students everywhere, you know, so to the margins of the city, they do field work in all the different areas. So we give them a total experience of the city, as if they live here. And you
Fantastic.
know, sometimes people ask me, why are you still doing this? You know, I mean, every time is different, and you can really change people's lives.
you can, yeah.
You know, the freedom of the city, the tolerance of the city, even though that is contested by some, and rightly so in a certain way, but still, compared to a lot of people's homelands or where they live, it's yeah, there's a certain freedom, and that's also one of the reasons probably why people like to stay. But also sometimes they make a click in their head, like, oh, I can look at it from this perspective. That changes things, and they will take that with them for the rest of their lives. And as Ian said, of course, also the friendships they make, and you know, and you know, we always say, you know, don't look at people as representative of their governments, you know, but see them as individuals. And then you have these classrooms sometimes with 20 students from 19 different countries, and you know, they get, you know, they suddenly see, oh my God, these are humans. These aren't coming from, you know, these.
I remember seeing there was a short documentary on, I think it was the BBC a few years ago. I've never been to university, but it's the closest I've ever thought about doing so, and it was because it was when the prices hiked up in the UK. It was like £9,000 per per term or per year, and then and they were looking at the comparison with Amsterdam, and at the time of that, it was £1,000, and so you had all of these international students then going over to Amsterdam and taking university, so they're not coming out riddled with debt, and it's an international school, and being in an amazing city and stuff. Is that still the case with the university?
Yeah, for students from the European Union and through a select other set of countries through deals, that they pay the Dutch tuition fee rate or the European tuition fee rate, which is extremely low. I must say, like I'm from Canada, as we said, and we have a great education system there. But our university is also only partially subsidized by the government. You have to put in a lot of money yourself if you want to go to university. It makes the stress a lot more palpable. But one thing that the Dutch have definitely perfected, I would say, just as an outsider's perspective over the last several years, is their university education model. You know, it's open. And I think also we can't forget that at the University of Amsterdam, we also have a more left-wing tradition. We're always the outliers in some cases. And I think it's something to be proud of. Education's accessible for people as much as possible, and the university does take it seriously to work on that all the time. But we have to thank the Dutch government for the good tuition rates, because that's nationally mandated. And you know, for international students, we do like for myself, coming from outside of the EU, I was fortunate enough to win a merit scholarship. So the university is very active in giving people from outside of the EU full tuition cover scholarships if they can. And even if not, actually the cost with the conversion for me to study in the Netherlands was still more affordable than to do, let's say, a law degree in Canada, which was what I was considering at the time. Yeah.
Wow, and the another, I mean, this, and one of the reasons why I love the Dutch and the people and the culture is just how, like, they just seem to get it right. Like, you think, well, that just makes sense on a number of fronts. And that's why I think it's big. I mean, I don't live in the UK now, I live overseas. And I think that's, over time, it's just become more and more increasingly difficult to just, especially you look at what's happening with the government now, and you know, there's some interesting things happening, it seems, on a daily occurrence now with some of the politicians and whatnot. But there was one documentary where it showed, like, with student housing. So student housing and tuition fees in the UK, you know, through the roof. And it showed this one documentary, and they thought, right, you've got these issues with the elderly people and socialising, and you've got these high fees for students for housing. So it was like, right, let's work on that. And so they brought students into the same accommodation with the elderly, and the students didn't pay anything for their accommodation, but they were contracted to, like, give 38 hours a month, say, like, one-to-one time with residents, and they weren't factored in with the staffing numbers. So it was they were purely hours to give, and you watch something like that and you say, well, that's perfect, you know, and that's that's Dutch way of thinking, and the elderly are then interacting and engaging, and you've got these young people learning so much as well, and going out to football games and stuff, and you just think, like, yeah, there's so many that we could touch on, I'm sure, that like that, and it's Scandinavians as well in a similar mindset. But what would you say is the one thing about living in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands that people you know get wrong about the place? What would you say is the I mean, you've touched on it being incredibly sensible, and people often think it isn't. What's the what are the
well, first of all, what I always say to the students, Amsterdam is not the Netherlands.
Exactly.
Bear that in mind. You know, they have this. I mean, first of all, Amsterdammers are very arrogant. You know, we always think we're the best and we know better, and you know. We're the center of the universe, basically. And that's why with a lot of, actually almost with all programs, we make an excursion to Rotterdam. And Rotterdam is a harbor city, has been almost totally wiped out during the Second World War. So has a totally different architecture and a totally different mindset. They always say, you know, Rotterdamers are hardworking, you know, blue collars, no nonsense, hardworking people. And Amsterdam are the snotty, snobbish, you know, and it's true, basically. I have to say that. And there's, of course, a fierce competition between the two, also when it comes to football. So that's a misconception. Amsterdam is not the Netherlands. And we also try to take them into the countryside, and we encourage them, you know, to go out of the city. And as I said earlier, we also take them to other parts of Amsterdam because, you know, it's the tourist area is not real life. To be honest, I actually hardly ever come there anymore because it's so busy. We used to have the university right in the middle, well, next to the red light district behind Dam Square. And at one point, you know, I mean, in the morning when I would bike to work, of course, we all bike. That's not a misconception.
No, that's very real. We all
that's
bike.
very real. And we, you know, and we bike and we walk. You know, we really have to put it in emails to students. Bring walking shoes, you know, we will walk, and they like, walk more than 100 meters is for some people. And we walk through the entire city, you know, and we walk in a fast pace like New Yorkers almost.
Yeah.
And we bike everywhere, and the bikes are everywhere. And I, again, totally distracted from my own story. But anyway, so yeah, misconceptions is that Amsterdam doesn't represent the Netherlands. There's a whole part of the Netherlands that's different.
I think for me as a foreigner and now someone who's made the Netherlands my home, that was something really interesting. Of course, I love history. I did a degree in history before I came to the Netherlands, and I actually studied a lot of Dutch history because I found it such an interesting, slightly different version of European history. But I think what you do forget when you come here is that even in such a small country, you know, I'm from the second largest country in the world, and I looked at the Netherlands and I thought, this is just barely the size of our smallest province. So how are 17 million people going to live together in this space? They probably all have one identity, but they don't. And that's not just Amsterdam and Rotterdam, as Mirjam pointed out, but indeed the differences between the city and the country, between the north and the south, and the east and the west. And I think there is actually incredible diversity within the Netherlands, just amongst the Dutch themselves. And that's actually really fantastic thing. The other misconception is that I get asked this all the time. We don't speak German, we speak Dutch. So I often get asked that, how's your German? But non-existent, but my Dutch is pretty good.
Awesome. And you've started a podcast, this is correct?
We have, yeah. So as Mirjam mentioned, you know, in the middle of March when everything kind of went sideways, we were looking at, what do we do? And Mirjam gave all of the members of our team, she gave us all the assignment, okay, go home, take a week and think about what it is that we could do that's different or innovative. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be directly education related, but like, let's keep our name out there and continue to do what we do. And we think that's bringing people together and sharing important stories. So we started a podcast called Mokum. That was a pitch that I made just in a small comment at the end of a document, and in the end, it's become one of the focal points of what we're doing this summer. I feel very honored to do it. I'm learning on the fly, and it's been a ton of fun. But Mokum, and that's in the podcast we describe that, but that's a Yiddish word that means safe harbor or safe haven. That then came to be adopted as kind of the second name for the city. So
Amsterdam, that's Mokum.
Exactly. So Amsterdam is Mokum. And we named our podcast that because we wanted to tell stories that, like Amsterdam, reflect on things that happen all over the world, but also you see them carried out in your day-to-day life. And I think that could be said for a lot of cities around the world, but it just feels particularly special about Amsterdam. So we cover a lot of topics in the podcast that we would cover in a bunch of our programs. It's impossible to represent all 29 of them within the run of a summer. But yeah, we're kind of four major episodes in now. We put one out every 2 weeks. So first ones are on cultures of suspicion and conspiracy theory, and then on journalism and our kind of like media ecosystem in the present. And we just did an episode that so far really has a special place in my heart. I'm really glad we got to work on this project together, but I actually interviewed everyone in our team and a few other people that we work with to share a story, whether that's an ongoing current event, a news item, a series, whatever, something that makes them pause and think on the present, reflect on how the world lines up around us, and just, yeah, makes us think for a second. And I must say the episode was a bit daunting from a logistical perspective, interviewing like 8 people, and I, as always, bit off more than I could chew, but it was so great to see to hear the final product. Yeah, and Mirjam's on there, she starts it all off, and yeah, it's very thoughtful. It's a great way to reflect on the community of people that you work with. And in the summer, we normally do that directly with people, but we can't do that anymore. So we wanted to continue, at least for this summer, and who knows, maybe we like it enough, we keep going in the future. But we wanted this summer to make an effort to do that. And response has been really positive. It's been a very enjoyable project to work on.
So this was a whole new skill, a whole new form of communication for you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think
I told him, go and buy a microphone.
Exactly. Mirjam said, go buy a microphone. I didn't even know where to begin. So I got in touch with the head of the IT services and I said, hey, I need a microphone. I'm starting a podcast. And in the end, I just followed all the links he said, put everything in the cart, and thankfully sent the bill to Mirjam. And, and we literally got started. It arrived the next day and we got started right away. So it's learning on the fly, which is a bit ambitious, but I think we're taking on a lot of projects that are ambitious in that sense because we're all very active people. And normally at this time of year, as Mirjam said, we'd be following our plan that we've been working on, our kind of master plan, and making small adjustments. Yeah. Master plan, there have to be 4 master plans right now, and maybe 4 more will come. So I think we've given ourselves some good challenges in new ways, and I'm just so proud
keep the community feeling alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And is it pure audio? So it's just the audio route that you're going down at the moment. And if so, was there a conscious decision to not cover both with the video interview style?
We have a number of projects going on. Something that's happening in education a lot right now are this idea of like mini lectures, and those are actually excellent via video. So we really wanted to, we've been making some of those. As Mirjam said, one of them is this kind of tour of the red light district. We have a few more in the works, which is pretty exciting.
We have the mindfulness on there already. And
exactly.
Mindfulness, we have as a starting point the summer school online page, where we have the podcast, literature that students can read, with links to all the articles. You guys, if you want to decide to go to university, James, this is your chance.
There
are articles
never
there
too
you
old.
can read.
Never too old to learn, Phil.
No, definitely
especially
not.
in Amsterdam.
No, you should check out that page. You will really like it because you get these mini, but also links to the articles, all open source.
Yeah.
And we have some written interviews with some of our academic directors. We have a mindfulness meditation on there, also mindfulness tips to deal with how to deal with COVID. And we will, so we are still creating content, and every week we add more content as we go along. So, yeah, I think, and people really visit it, and yeah.
They really do.
I mean, you never know, we just try out this stuff.
I think it must be the same for you guys, right? Like you happen on a project and you think, okay, you just have to go for it. And of course, review after the fact or while you're doing it. We were pleasantly surprised by the response. And we have a really talented team with enough people on it that we can kind of all take on a few different projects at the same time. So we've gone for this approach where we're all working on everything together, but we do have point people for each of the projects. which means we can tackle these different mediums and and these different topics in overall these different channels that we're now making.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to worry about the end result and to worry about the perfect direction. Just turns into just procrastinating a lot, doesn't it? And
You're right.
You must have learned a lot in the time that you've been doing this, you know, to where you are now, which if you'd known at the beginning, you would have done differently, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. But one thing I think we do really well as a team, and that's something that Mirjam always pushes us to do every year, is we sit down and we review everything that we did. So it's great to run full force throughout the year because you have to in many cases, but we also really take that time, sometimes a week, 2 weeks, to kind of close everything else down and just think deeply about what we did. I think as a result, it makes attacking new things less scary because we paused to reflect on what we've done, and we knew that at that time it was also something new or something different, but we were still able to make it work and learn from it. So we just kind of put those feathers in our cap and we keep going. Yeah.
Well,
we're not.
I mean, oh, sorry, Mirjam.
Yeah, we're not afraid to fail.
No.
I think, or to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I had to learn it myself, and I had to taught the team. I work with a young team, and they're really smart, but they're also really perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them, I think, all of them actually. And look at Ian.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a bit of a, well, I don't know how you would call me, mentor.
Mirjam's a good strict teacher.
Yeah.
Good mentor.
Yeah. So they have to let go of the perfectionism. It doesn't need to be 100% perfect. And okay, you made a mistake. Well, we move on. We tried it, and we also, we try things, and then in the end, after the summer, we think, oh God, that didn't work at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
you never know.
Yeah, and sometimes we have brilliant ideas. Oh, and of course, our trees. We had such a brilliant idea this year, and I was so thrilled and proud. We were going to, we did actually plant a tree for every student that would come. Mm-hmm. So we spent an awful lot of money on planting 2,000 trees, 1,000 in the Netherlands and 1,000 in Uganda, to compensate for their flights. But now they haven't come. But the trees are planted.
The trees are planted.
That's a large net positive then.
It is a very large net positive for this year. That's
for the planet it is. Not for my budget.
We're hoping to get to go visit our little forest soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then we couldn't go there to plant the trees because of the lockdown.
Because of the lockdown. Yeah.
So we couldn't even plant our own trees.
And that's in the Netherlands, or is that a Ugandan visit as well that you guys?
In the Netherlands.
Now that you mention it, good idea.
Yeah.
And great content as well at the same time, right?
I think a lot of people at that time were really wrestling with the idea of like, what do we do in general, not just in education, with people flying over the world? Before COVID-19, and certainly when we were in Morocco last year, we were talking about this a lot. Mirjam and I travel back home to see my family. Mirjam also, we love to travel, and we were really critically looking at ourselves and then also reflecting on our business. And we thought, okay, it's time to put our money where our mouth is. And I'm really proud about it because it's these small changes you make in your work when you reflect on things that can also have a big impact on your personal life, and certainly the lives of other people around you. So that's another story that we, despite the fact that we couldn't be there to plant the trees, so we did get a lot of people did get in touch with us and say like, wow, this is really cool that you guys are thinking about this as well. So there have been some proud moments this year, despite the fact that we, it definitely hasn't gone the way we wanted it to. But hey, got to roll with the punches.
And you just said we said how we met, and you've got a boss who lets you make mistakes and also whisks you away to Morocco for a team retreat, right? I
know.
I mean, I'll happily work for you, Mirjam. Just give me the shout. Happy to help anytime. But tell us about Morocco and what that looked like, because we've had and Joe and Connor on the show who you met out in Tagazout, and they run retreats and have done in Tagazout. And we've also been connecting with a number of other people as well who've been on the show or lined up. Also Magda as well. So
is Magda already been on the show, or will she be on the show?
No, I think I was supposed to do the podcast out in Morocco, but my equipment, I had new equipment, it didn't work, and so that was one failed attempt. But yeah, looking to connect with her. But I know it's close to your heart, Mirjam, Sundesk and Tagazout as a whole. And what does that look like, taking a team to a foreign destination like that, and on a retreat, and planning and focusing and having some downtime together as well?
Well, I mean, I always try to combine work with fun, right? I mean, I always say I don't, well, anyway, I love Sundesk, I love to travel, I love the sun, I love to step out of my situation, and, you know, sometimes you need to step out of it to look at it.
Absolutely.
Sundesk is so special for me because, you know, you don't have to worry about your laundry, your food, your breakfast, you know, you really can focus. You can really work. I knew my team would like it. First, you know, I've grown over the last couple of years. So first it was just me and Grace and me, I mean. Then it was Grace and Ian, and last time with Charlotte. So I thought, you know, and when you're in Amsterdam, you just, well, basically work from 9 to 5, and you know, you have all these other things on your mind, and in Sundesk that all goes away, and you can work when you like, and you can focus. And if you want to work 9 in the evening till 12 midnight because we're inspired or we're on a roll, you can do that.
Yeah.
So, and it's, of course, you get to know each other in a different way. And that's also good. You know, traveling is always bonding. I mean, you know, waiting for a plane, all the things that go wrong, you know. What do you remember of traveling? Not the travels that went 100% right. You forget about those. You remember the holidays when it rained for 10 days, or when you fell down the stairs, or, you know, when something unexpected happened. That's what you remember. And then you have to deal with it together. So when Grace is sick, you know, we take care of her. In a normal situation, it wouldn't happen. You know, so you share different experiences in a different way. So once you're back in Amsterdam, you know, you have a different bond. But you could better ask Ian how he experienced it.
I was pretty surprised the first year. I mean, I knew I'd just done my internship at the office, and I was fortunate enough to get a contract, right place at the right time, right? And I was so excited. And then Mirjam said, okay, and in October, we're going to Morocco. I was like, oh my God, okay, we're going to Morocco. I'd never been before, so the whole idea for me was very exciting. And of course, I've never been on a work retreat with a team, but I think everything that Mirjam says is 100% accurate. You definitely need to be taken out of your comfort zone sometimes. And meanwhile, it's very comfortable there. It's just a different sort. Everything is slightly different, from the light to the color of the sky to the smell of the sea. We have all those things here, but it's just a little bit different. And I think there's something really beautiful about being able to reflect on that while you're there. And work processes wise, there's nothing better than being able to, you know, not be in the office to talk about work. We always say that we go so that we aren't bothered by our daily routines. And that's something, you know, for me, I commute to work on the train. That's something for me that when we go to Morocco, I know my commute is only, you know, up the stairs to the breakfast table, maybe across the street if I'm staying in the second house. It's peaceful, but I think what's really cool is the community of people we meet there. I mean, we're a really tight team. We've met you there, of course. We've met a ton of people there over the years. And I think that's really amazing. You also get inspired by people that are in totally different industries. I don't think anyone else that I've met at Sundesk was working on you know, working at a university or making education programs like that. So in some ways we're the outliers, which is phenomenal, because I think also we're used to being that way also at the university. Summer education is different than everything else. And at Sundesk, we're also different, but we're with a group of people who are used to being different themselves. And I think that there's something really valuable with getting to even have great discussions or arguments or share a meal. It doesn't matter. Anything that happens there is ultimately good for your work and good for the soul. So I think that it's a nice combo. Yeah.
I'd fully agree on that front.
Yeah.
For sure.
The tan's not bad either, huh? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, before we wrap up, what's one kind of piece of advice that you could give our audience? I'll ask that to both you guys, and something that you've picked up, or something that's kept you positive or strong, or something that you've drawn from somebody else under these uncertain times. What's a kind of one piece of advice you could give to our audience?
That's a great question, James.
How are you ensuring that you keep yourselves positive, energized, sane? You know, if we look at, you know, some of the ways that's helping you.
You know, I think what's important is that you are honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And that, again, it's about making mistakes, and you know, you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to be afraid or anxious or nervous or feel lonely or depressed, and you know, who wouldn't under these circumstances? You know, I have this personality. I'm always strong. I'm a single mom. I'm always strong. I raised my kids. I earn my own money. I'm not dependent on anyone. Ooh, here's me. I travel alone. I live alone. You know, I'm this superwoman.
You are.
Of course, I'm not. You know, I tend to get lonely, depressed. I cry. I feel anxious. I can panic. You know, that's also part of me.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned over the years. But I think that in this COVID situation, you know, it helps me to acknowledge that again. You know, I'm in a kind of risk group, right? So I should be more careful than Ian and Grace. They're way younger, so you know, I have to acknowledge that. You know, so yeah, don't try to be someone you're not, and also accept that you're a human being with good
everything.
things, bad things, strengths, weaknesses.
Yeah.
Love that, Mirjam.
Mm-hmm.
And Ian?
Yeah, I think one thing throughout these last 2.5 months, which is crazy to say, that has really grounded me. I think I, like many people, have lost all sense of time. I know what time of day it is, and I know which day of the week it is. Like, I know that it's Monday or Tuesday or whatever, but I don't know the date really, and I don't know the month, because the days have all been very similar. And I think that sameness can really be alienating to people, because we are used to differences in our lives, even if it's just today I will get my coffee at this place on my way to my job or whatever. We all build our lives to have those sorts of, to help pass the time. And I think that a lot of people's worldviews, our horizons have been shrinking. And I think what Mirjam says is really real. I've just accepted that for now, that's the way this is going to happen. But one thing that's really grounded me is our weekly Zoom calls every Monday at 10. And I know a lot of people are just done with it. And I totally respect that. But we're a tight team. And for me, it's so enjoyable just, you know, at 10 on Monday morning to log in and see all those smiling faces and think, yeah, these are people that, as Mirjam says, I can be myself with. And if today I don't feel like it, or I can't, or whatever, that's okay. And I know that no one's going to push me if it's just one day. No one will say, come on, snap to it. But then if it does last a while, these are the same people who will say, hey, I'm here for you. It's time to get going. So I would just say find that strength and solidarity within your team to be able to let your different team members be who they are. And you'll be able to get through it all together, I think. It is really about getting through it together. I'm never gonna be able to do this alone. Neither is Mirjam, neither are you guys. So it's just a nice reminder, I think.
Yeah.
Very true. Love that. Yeah, our hashtag is stronger together. And I mean, look, there's four of us coming together, exactly. Having a chat and just giving value. And by having these conversations, we're not only supporting our audience, but, you know, we're supporting each other as well by ideas and lessons as well. So where can people find you guys? Where can we direct our audience towards seeing your content?
summerschool.uva.nl. And they can find everything there. That's links to our Summer School Online, our online courses, podcast. We've gathered it all in one convenient place for everyone.
You've said that before, haven't you? You've said that before.
It might be how I end each episode of the podcast.
Well, feel free to drop resources as well onto our channels. That's what it's for. We're non-sales, so if you've got value to add, please feel free. That would be awesome. And likewise with your podcast episodes, drop them on too. And also outside of the show, if there's anything Phil and I can help you guys with, I mean, you know, we've ploughed our marketing agency's resources behind developing this, and we're experts on pillar to micro content marketing. So we'd be happy to share some ideas with you guys. If there's anything that you would find useful, would be more than happy to do so.
Maybe we'll be knocking on your door before you knock on me.
Can I ask something? Can I ask both to Phil, James, you know Amsterdam, but Phil, how does it feel to you when you hear us talk? What does it do with you?
I've been captivated. I think you guys are real thought leaders. You've got very original thought and approach. You can tell that obviously you come from an academic world where you'll clearly look into a topic and then just deliver it in a very, very accessible way. It's been very, very enjoyable to hear your thoughts and your process and things. And also how quickly it looks like you're able to get rid of something that doesn't work, and that might be in the micro in a conversation or in a whole curriculum for some education. That's not working, so we'll get rid of that. We'll, like you say, we'll discuss it, redesign and go forward again. And I think you're naturally doing that just in a conversation as well. So
absolutely. And I just love the Dutch accent as well. I remember it was Euro 2004 and I was stood in a chocolate shop in Amsterdam talking to this very tall, elderly, blonde Dutch lady, and who knew a football. It was when Wayne Rooney had that amazing tournament, and I was just in this. I ended up standing for 45 minutes in this chocolate shop talking to this Dutch lady about the Euros and Wayne Rooney, and I was just thinking, and I've got thousands of stories like that over the years visiting your wonderful city. I can say to both of you, with you now living there, Ian. But it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, guys. Absolute pleasure to have you on, and I dare say this won't be the last. We'll look forward to staying in touch and having you back on the show and visiting you in Amsterdam.
Yeah, feel welcome. We'll meet up. And otherwise, I really hope we can meet up again in Sundesk.
Yeah, also.
There is that as well, along with planting trees in,
Uganda.
Uganda. I mean, we're creating quite a positive list here, aren't we, between us? I think this could be a match made in heaven.
Indeed.
All right.
But
okay,
thank you so
for
much for your
having
time.
us, James and Phil.
Nice.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Lockdown.
Please comment, like, share and subscribe to help build our global community.
We look forward to seeing you all soon.